Hey guys, tonight we step softly into a medieval household just before dawn, somewhere outside York in the year 1362, when the yard is still grey, the thatch is wet with mist, and the first sound you hear is not birdsong, but a wooden bucket knocking against a stone lip as water is drawn in the cold. You are not arriving as a knight, not as a monk, not as a lord with a seal ring and a horse waiting in the lane. You arrive as a daughter, wrapped in rough wool, with sleep still clinging to your eyes, and already the house has work for you. The hearth has to be coaxed back from ash. The younger child has to be quieted before he wakes the whole room. The bread needs watching, the animals need feeding, and your mother is already moving with the silent urgency of someone whose day began before she opened her eyes. So settle in, pull the blanket close, and stay with the old house for a while. Like the video if you enjoy these slow walks through ordinary history. Subscribe if you want more quiet medieval nights. And tell us where you are listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Maybe your room is warm, maybe your street is calm, maybe your kettle is close by. Good. Because this world offers very little of that. Tonight, you learn what it meant to be a daughter in medieval times, and the first lesson is simple. Your life is never only yours. You are born into a family that does not have the luxury of treating birth as a private joy alone. There is affection, of course. A mother may hold you close. A father may soften when he sees your small face. A grandmother may murmur a saint's name over you. But beyond the cradle, the household is already counting. It counts mouths, hands, dowries, future marriages, beds, harvests, debts, and risks. A son may be imagined as a future ploughman, apprentice, heir, or labourer who can keep the family name in place. A daughter is imagined differently, not because she is unloved, but because society places her usefulness in another pattern. She is future labour inside the home, future help in the fields, future wife in another household, future link between families, and sometimes, if fortune allows, future caretaker of old parents. Before you can speak, your path is being quietly sketched around other people's needs. In a peasant cottage, this begins with space. There may be one room where everyone sleeps, works, eats, argues, prays, coughs, and waits out winter. Your cradle might be a box, a basket, or a corner near the hearth, where warmth is precious and smoke is ordinary. You learn the sounds of family life before you understand them. Grinding grain, scraping bowls, animals shifting beyond the wall, rain ticking through straw, your mother's breath when she is tired but still working. Childhood is not separated from adult life by bright walls. You do not grow up in a special world made for children. You grow up underfoot, beside work, within work, slowly becoming useful, because usefulness is one of the safest kinds of love a poor household can recognise. If you are born into a wealthier family, the counting changes but does not disappear. Your cradle may be lined with better cloth, your food may be more reliable, and your skin may not crack from cold as early, but you are still a daughter in a world of arrangements. Your birth may be considered in terms of alliance, inheritance, property, marriage negotiations, and family reputation. A noble father might see you as a future bridge to another household. A merchant family might see you as a way to strengthen a trade connection. Your mother may watch you with tenderness, but also with the practical knowledge that your manners, needlework, prayers, posture, silence, and obedience will one day be judged by people outside the family. Even your name can carry expectation. You may be named for a saint, a grandmother, a patron, or a woman whose reputation the family wants near you. The church enters early too. Baptism is not optional decoration, it is urgent protection in a world where infants die often and eternity feels very near. The water touches your head, prayers are said, and the community receives you. You belong to your parents, but also to parish, custom, law, and God. Very cosy. in the way a stone wall is cosy when it has no door. As you grow, you discover that being a daughter means being watched with purpose. People notice whether you obey quickly, whether you answer too sharply, whether you are careful with tools, whether you cry too easily, whether you show patience with younger children. These are not tiny personality notes. They are social forecasts. A quiet, capable daughter is praised because she makes the household easier and makes her future marriage more likely. A restless, noisy, disobedient daughter is not simply called difficult. She is treated as a problem that could damage the family name. Modern childhood gets to have phases. Medieval childhood is more like a probationary apprenticeship in being useful. Charming, really, if your dream vacation is becoming responsible before your front teeth have fully settled. And yet, inside all this duty, there is still feeling. You may be loved through a warmed crust saved for you, through a patched sleeve, through your mother shifting you closer to the fire, through an older sister teaching you how to hold wool without tangling it. Medieval families do not always speak love in soft modern language. They speak it through survival. They keep you fed when they can. They teach you because ignorance is dangerous. They correct you because reputation matters. They send you to fetch water because everyone must help. You begin life as someone's daughter. But very quickly, you become part of the household machine, small, tired, noticed, necessary. Your childhood ends gradually, not with a ceremony, but with chores multiplying around you like weeds after rain. At first, you are given the smallest tasks, the ones adults think you cannot ruin too badly, which is always comforting. You pick up kindling, hold a bowl steady, rock a cradle with your foot, carry scraps to the chickens, and fetch whatever your mother points toward with the particular tired glance of a woman who has not sat down properly since last Tuesday. The work is not dramatic. It is not the great labour of harvest or childbirth or managing a household under debt. It is smaller and constant, and that is exactly why it becomes your education. By 5 or 6, you know the house by touch and sound. You know which floorboard dips, which pot has a cracked side, which child wakes hungry, which neighbour's dog bites, which path to the well turns slick after rain. Play exists, but it is folded between duties. You might chase another child near the lane, make a doll from rags, hum a song, or scratch little patterns in the dirt with a stick. Then someone calls your name, and play folds itself away. A daughter is trained by interruption. You learn that your own amusement can be paused at any moment because the household has a louder claim. If you live in the countryside, animals become part of your early world. Geese hiss at you with the confidence of tiny feathered officials. Hens scatter, pigs root, cows shift their heavy bodies, and sheep require more patience than any child naturally owns. You may gather eggs, guard birds from foxes, help drive animals to pasture, or carry fodder. Animals are not cute background details. They are food, rent, wool, milk, eggs, fertilizer, and risk. A careless girl who leaves a gate open can cost the family dearly. So you learn watchfulness. You learn to count, not with written numbers perhaps, but with eyes. 1 hen missing, 2 calves restless, 1 bundle too damp, 1 bucket not full enough. Sibling care is another early duty. A younger brother or sister may be strapped, held, fed, wiped, distracted, or dragged gently away from the hearth. You are still a child, but you become a small substitute adult. You learn the weight of a toddler on your hip, the sticky hands at your skirt, the panic of a baby coughing too long in winter. This is not sentimental babysitting, it is household labour. Your mother's hands are needed for spinning, kneading, washing, brewing or field work. Your hands are smaller, but they are available. Medieval efficiency, if you can stand upright, congratulations, you are staff. Obedience is taught early because obedience protects order. In a world without many buffers, mistakes spread. If you burn the porridge, there may not be extra grain. If you spill milk, that loss matters. If you speak rudely before neighbours, gossip may follow. If you wander too far, danger is not abstract. There are wells, animals, strangers, carts, illness, and sudden weather. Adults may seem strict, but much of that strictness comes from living close to disaster. The line between ordinary day and serious trouble is thin enough to trip over. Your clothing teaches you too. You wear practical garments that can be patched, belted, lengthened, handed down, and patched again. Cloth takes labour to make, so no one treats it casually. Sleeves are rolled, hems gather mud, wool scratches, linen softens only after use, and shoes may be precious enough to save for certain conditions. You do not own a wardrobe so much as a small weather defence system with stains. If your family is poor, you understand fabric as work. Someone sheared wool, washed it, carded it, spun it, wove it, cut it, stitched it. When you snag your sleeve, that is not a fashion accident, that is a tiny domestic tragedy wearing a thread. As you age, instruction becomes less gentle. You are corrected while doing, corrected while watching, corrected before you even begin, because someone already knows how you will likely do it wrong. You learn by repetition until your body remembers. How to sweep without raising too much dust, how to carry water without sloshing, how to turn a loaf, how to keep ash from spoiling food, how to notice when a younger child is too quiet, which is, historically and universally, never a good sign. There is affection in this training, but it often comes disguised as impatience. Your mother may snap because she is tired, not because she does not care. Your father may expect silence, because noise feels like disorder after a day of labour. Your grandmother may tell you old rules as if they are laws of nature. Do not waste. Do not boast. Do not stare. Do not answer back. Do not trust every smile. Do not go alone after dark. Do not let your hair fall loose where strangers can talk. A daughter absorbs warnings long before she understands the reasons. Slowly, childhood becomes memory, while you are still technically a child. The games shrink. The tasks grow. You are praised less for being sweet and more for being capable. You begin to measure yourself by how much help you are, how well you endure, how little trouble you cause. That is one of the quieter sorrows of being a medieval daughter. You are not pushed out of childhood all at once. You are used out of it, one small duty at a time. The home is your first school, and its lessons arrive without desks, bells, or anyone asking if you are emotionally ready for today's learning objectives. You learn while kneeling, carrying, stirring, pulling, holding, sweeping, and standing close enough to an older woman to copy the movement of her hands. Medieval daughters are trained through observation because books are rare, time is short, and the household cannot pause for formal instruction every time a child needs to understand bread. You watch, then try, then fail in a way that earns a sigh, then try again. Bread is one of the great lessons. It is not simply food, it is rhythm, economy, and survival. Grain must be ground, flour kept safe from damp and pests, dough mixed with the right feel, not too dry, not too slack, and baked with a hearth or oven managed by experience. In some villages, baking may involve a communal oven, which means timing, payment, queuing, and neighbourhood observation. Your loaf can become public information. Too pale, too burnt, too flat, too small, congratulations, the bread has become a local newsletter. You learn to handle water, which sounds simple until you remember that water is heavy, wells are cold, and distance turns every bucket into a character-building experience nobody requested. Carrying water shapes your shoulders and your patience. You learn to choose a route, balance the load, avoid mud, keep children away from the edge, and not waste what took effort to bring. A modern tap gives water like a small miracle with plumbing. Your world asks for steps, grip, and repeated journeys. Spinning is another constant skill, especially for girls and women. Wool, flax, and thread connect daughters to the household economy. You may begin with rough fibre and awkward fingers, learning to draft evenly, twist steadily, wind carefully, and avoid knots. The work is repetitive enough to seem boring, which for sleep history is excellent, but for your medieval self it is life. Thread becomes cloth, cloth becomes clothing, bedding, sacks, covers, and trade. A daughter who can spin is not merely keeping busy. She is producing value while sitting, walking, talking, watching children, or waiting. Medieval multitasking, because apparently one form of labour at a time would be too luxurious. Cooking teaches caution. The hearth is warm, smoky, and dangerous. Pots are heavy, fire is hungry, and food must stretch. You learn pottages of grains, peas, beans, greens, onions, herbs, scraps of meat when available, and whatever the season permits. You learn that flavour matters, but fullness matters more. Salt is useful, ale may be safer than water in some places, and fresh food is not guaranteed. You learn how to judge spoilage by smell and texture, not by dates printed politely on packaging. The kitchen is not a cosy separate room with cheerful tiles. It is work, smoke, soot, heat, and the constant negotiation between hunger and supply. Cleaning is not modern cleaning. You are not polishing a sparkling house into magazine readiness. You are battling mud, ash, insects, animal traces, smoke residue, spilled ale, rushes on the floor, and the general medieval commitment to bringing the outside indoors. Fresh rushes or straw may be laid down, old material cleared when possible, surfaces wiped, tools hung, bedding aired, clothes beaten, and laundry attacked with water. Lie, effort, and a very strong belief in endurance. Cleanliness exists, but it is practical and uneven. People know dirt, smell, and disease in their own terms, even without germ theory. They may not understand bacteria, but they absolutely understand that rotting things, foul air, and filth are bad company. Mending trains your patience. The daughter's needle is not decorative only, it extends the life of precious cloth. You patch elbows, reinforce seams, mend linen, repair sacks, and learn that neat work matters, because poor stitching fails. If your family has more means, embroidery and fine sewing may also become part of your training, not only for beauty but for status. The hand that mends a coarse stocking and the hand that stitches a fine border both belong to a society where textile skill is deeply valued. You also learn household memory, where the good knife is kept. Which neighbour borrowed a bowl? How much grain remains? Which herb your mother uses for a cough? Which aunt has a temper? Which cousin's marriage improved the family's standing, and which one became, as everyone agrees while pretending not to gossip, a lesson to us all? Daughters often carry this domestic knowledge because they are present for the small exchanges that keep households functioning. As you work beside your mother or another woman, you receive warnings disguised as instruction. Stir slowly. Haste ruins the pot. Tie it tighter. Loose knots lose things. Do not laugh too loudly at the market. Keep your eyes lowered near men who enjoy attention. Remember who paid what. Remember who did not. These lessons prepare you for a world where women must read rooms carefully. Power may not be yours, but perception can be. By the time you are older, your body knows the home as a map of duties. Your hands move before thought fully forms. You can hear when the pot needs attention, smell when bread has turned, feel when thread is uneven, see when a child is about to do something spectacularly unhelpful. The home has taught you without ever calling itself a school. It has made you useful, watchful, and tired. It has also given you skills that may keep you alive in another household, which is the quiet truth beneath every lesson a daughter is trained to leave, even while everything she learns is rooted at home. If you are a peasant daughter, your life is tied to the land so closely that weather feels like a family member with a difficult personality. The village does not simply surround you, it defines your movement, your work, your hunger, your calendar, and your hopes. You wake to fields, animals, mud, bells, smoke, and the steady pressure of rent or dues owed to someone above your family. Your home may be small, but your labour stretches across yard, lane, pasture, field, well, wood, and byre. You belong to the household, and the household belongs to the seasons. Spring brings work with a kind of damp urgency. The ground softens, animals birth, weeds return like they have been personally invited, and everyone watches the fields for signs of promise or trouble. You may help carry seed, scare birds, tend gardens, gather early greens, clean stalls, and assist with lambs, calves, or chicks. The air may smell of wet earth, dung, smoke, and new grass, which is medieval perfume if you lower expectations enough. Your feet sink into mud, your hem darkens, your hands chill, and still the day expects more. Summer is long light and long labour. Haymaking, weeding, dairy work, tending animals, carrying water, and helping with food preservation fill the days. A daughter may join field tasks when needed, especially in poorer households where everybody counts. You bend, lift, gather, carry, and return home to more work, because the house does not politely pause while the field is demanding. Heat can be dangerous. So can storms. So can a failed crop. You learn to watch the sky not as scenery, but as a message that may affect whether your family eats well in winter. Harvest is the great test. The whole community moves with a focused, almost anxious energy, because grain must be cut and gathered before weather spoils it. Men, women and children all contribute according to strength and role. You may bind sheaves, glean leftover grain, carry food to workers, watch younger children, or help prepare meals for exhausted labourers. Gleaning especially can be crucial for poorer families. Those scattered heads of grain look small, but small things matter when hunger is practical, not poetic. Every handful becomes part of survival. Autumn turns attention towards storage. Food must be dried, salted, brewed, milled, saved, hidden from pests, and measured carefully. Animals may be slaughtered when they cannot be fed through winter. Gardens are cleared, wood is gathered, clothing is repaired. You learn that winter is not only cold, it is a budget made of food, fuel, cloth, and luck. A daughter helps stretch the household's resources. She learns thrift not as a moral slogan, but as a daily technology. Winter slows some outdoor labour but deepens indoor work. There is spinning, mending, cooking, tending fire, caring for animals, watching children, and enduring cold. Smoke hangs low, breath may show in the room. Damp creeps into bedding. Food becomes plainer. Illness moves through households with an ease that feels unfair even by medieval standards, which is saying something. You sit near the hearth and work by weak light, perhaps listening to stories, prayers, complaints, and old fears. Outside, the lanes freeze or turn to muck. Inside, everyone is too close, too tired, and very aware of how much grain remains. The peasant daughter learns economy through the body. She knows the weight of a full pail, the scratch of straw, the ache of bending, the smell of sour milk, the sharpness of cold water, the sting of smoke in the eyes. She understands that comfort is temporary, and usually borrowed from someone else's effort. She sees her mother age under labour. She sees older girls leave for marriage or service. She sees widows struggle, babies fail, animals die, fields recover, and life continue, because it must. Village society watches her too. Neighbours know who works hard and who shirks, who is marriageable, who is troublesome, who has a dowry, who does not, who has been seen talking too long by the hedge. Privacy is thin. Reputation travels along lanes faster than a cart, and with fewer maintenance issues. A peasant daughter grows up inside this web of observation. She learns when to speak, when to keep quiet, when to help, when to avoid a quarrel, and when to pretend not to have heard something she absolutely heard. Yet village life is not only hardship. There are feast days, church gatherings, songs, shared labour, seasonal customs, small jokes, neighbourly help, and the comfort of knowing familiar faces. You may laugh while washing, sing while spinning, trade glances with a sister during a sermon, or enjoy warm bread with the deep gratitude of someone who knows exactly what it cost. The life is hard, but not empty. It contains belonging, and belonging can feel like safety even when safety is incomplete. For a peasant daughter, childhood, work, family and future are all woven into the same rough cloth. You are not raised for leisure. You are raised to keep life going, one chore, one season, one careful saving of grain at a time. If you are a noble daughter, your world may look softer from the outside, but it is not freer. You may sleep in a better bed, wear finer linen, eat more meat, and avoid the raw edge of hunger that haunts poorer households. You may learn music, prayers, reading, French phrases, graceful movement, embroidery, and the management of servants. Your hands may not crack from hauling water every day, but your body, manners, speech, and future are watched with a precision that can feel like living inside a velvet-lined cage. Very elegant, very expensive, still a cage. A noble household is a place of hierarchy. Everyone has a rank, a role, a place at table, a way to address others, and a set of expectations that must be performed visibly. As a daughter, you are trained not only to be good, but to appear good in ways that matter politically and socially. You must learn restraint. How to sit, how to walk, how to lower your eyes without seeming dull, how to speak without seeming bold, how to receive guests, how to listen to adults discussing matters that may one day decide your marriage. Your body becomes part of the family's public image. Education depends on wealth, region, and family ambition, but high-born daughters may receive more formal training than many people imagine. You might learn to read devotional texts, recite prayers, sing, sew fine work, understand household accounts, supervise storage, and manage domestic staff. In some courts or great houses, you may be exposed to literature, romances, saints' lives, music, and conversation. Yet this education is not usually designed to make you independent in a modern sense. It is meant to make you suitable as a wife, hostess, estate manager, mother of heirs, and representative of lineage. Marriage shadows your childhood. A noble daughter may be promised young, sometimes very young, though actual married life may begin later depending on circumstances and law. Betrothal can be a tool of alliance, land settlement, peacemaking, debt management, and family advancement. You may hear adults speak of your future as if discussing a bridge, a field, or a treaty. This is not because they think you are furniture. Exactly. It is because lineage society has an extraordinary talent for turning people into arrangements. Your clothing reflects status and control. Fine fabrics, belts, veils, sleeves, colours and ornaments show rank. But they also announce obedience to rules of modesty and class. You learn that appearance is language. Too plain may insult your family's position. Too showy may invite criticism. Too careless may suggest poor upbringing. A daughter of rank is read like a document by everyone who sees her, and sadly there is no option to close the document and become a tree for a while. Movement is controlled. You may walk in gardens, attend chapel, visit another household, or travel for family reasons, but rarely without supervision. Castles, manors, and great houses are full of people, yet loneliness can live there. Servants surround you, but servants also observe. Relatives protect you, but protection can become confinement. Your world may be physically larger than a peasant cottage, yet socially narrow. You know which rooms you may enter, which conversations you may join, which men you must avoid, and which women judge everything. You also learn domestic authority. A noblewoman may one day manage estates while her husband is away at war, court, or business. She may oversee supplies, servants, rents, hospitality, child-rearing, textile production, brewing, dairying, and charity. This is real responsibility. A daughter watching her mother may see not weakness, but administration. The lady of a household is not merely decorative, she can be a manager of resources and people. But her authority is usually framed through marriage and family, not personal freedom. She may command servants while still being commanded by her father, husband, law, and custom. Religion surrounds your training. You may have access to books of hours, chaplains, confessors, private devotion, embroidered altar cloths, and saints held up as models. Virgin martyrs, obedient wives, holy mothers, penitent women, and noble patrons form a gallery of examples. You are told to be pious, modest, charitable, patient, and controlled. Conveniently, nearly all these virtues also make you easier to manage. Medieval society really does enjoy a multitasking moral lesson. Still, noble daughters can have strong personalities, preferences, intelligence, and influence. Some write letters, manage lands, patronize churches, negotiate household matters, or shape family memory. Some resist marriages, form intense friendships, enter convents, or become powerful widows. But these possibilities depend heavily on status, wealth, politics, and luck. Your life may be more comfortable than a peasant girl's, but comfort is not the same as choice. As a noble daughter, you learn early that privilege has walls. You are fed, dressed, instructed, and guarded because you matter to the family. But you matter in ways that make your future negotiable. The soft bed does not erase the hard truth. Your name, body, marriage, and manners are part of a larger design, and you are expected to step into it gracefully, as if grace makes a locked door less locked. If you are a daughter in a medieval town, your life is shaped by walls, streets, bells, markets, workshops, and the smell of trade. The town is louder than the village and less spacious than the countryside. It wakes with carts, hooves, apprentices shouting, metal striking metal, bakers pulling bread from ovens, fishmongers calling prices, and neighbours leaning from upper windows with the confidence of people who know everyone's business. You grow up not under open fields, but among doorways, stalls, alleys, shop fronts, and the constant movement of goods. Your family may live above or behind a shop. The front room might sell cloth, shoes, bread, candles, ale, spices, metalwork, or small household goods. Work and home are not separate. Customers step near your domestic life. Domestic life supports the trade. You may sweep the shop, fetch items, count small coins, watch stock, carry messages, mind younger siblings, help prepare materials, or learn how your parents speak differently to customers depending on rank, patience, and likelihood of payment. Retail has always involved acting, apparently, only the shoes were less comfortable. Guilds shape town life, though daughters' access varies. Many formal apprenticeships are male-dominated, especially in trades controlled by guild rules, but women and girls still work. They assist husbands, fathers, mothers, widows and masters. They spin, sew, brew, sell, prepare food, finish cloth, keep accounts, manage stalls, and sometimes continue businesses as widows. A town daughter may learn practical numeracy, even if she never enters a school. She knows what a loaf costs, how much cloth remains, which customer argues, which supplier cheats, and which coin feels suspiciously light. Markets are your classroom. You learn prices by hearing them repeated. You learn quality by touch, cloth weave, cheese firmness, fish freshness, candle weight, leather strength. You learn people by face and habit. A good buyer hesitates in one way, a liar hesitates in another. You watch your mother bargain with a calm voice that hides sharp arithmetic. You learn that politeness can be a tool, silence can be a tool, and sometimes a raised eyebrow can do the work of an entire legal document. The town offers opportunity but also risk. Streets are crowded, and a daughter must move carefully. Men drink in taverns, apprentices roam in groups, carts squeeze through lanes, waste runs in gutters, and strangers pass through with unknown intentions. Your reputation is more fragile in public because more eyes exist to damage it. Standing too long in the wrong place, laughing with the wrong person, dressing above your status, or being seen alone at the wrong hour can become gossip. In a village, everyone knows you. In a town, enough people know you to talk, and enough strangers do not know you to make trouble. Education in town may be more available. Some daughters of merchants or craftsmen learn to read, especially if reading helps devotional business. They may recognize accounts, letters, labels, receipts, or prayer texts. In wealthier urban homes, girls may learn finer sewing, music, and manners. Poorer town daughters learn through labour, errands, and service. Many girls leave home to work as servants in other households. Service can provide food, lodging, wages, training, and sometimes a path to marriage. But it also places a daughter under another family's authority, which is a polite way of saying she gets new rules without necessarily losing the old worries. Domestic production is everywhere. Brewing ale, baking, spinning, washing, candle making, preserving food, and mending clothes all support the urban household. If your mother brews, you may help clean vessels, carry water, watch fermentation, serve customers, and understand that ale can be both nourishment and business. If your family works with cloth, your day may be full of fibre, dye, thread, cutting, measuring, and the endless medieval romance of lint. If your father is a craftsman, the rhythm of tools becomes part of your sleep. You may see more variety than a village daughter. Pilgrims, merchants, clerks, friars, beggars, labourers, widows, foreign traders, noble visitors, and officials move through town. You hear accents. You see goods from elsewhere. You learn that the world is larger than your street, but not necessarily easier. The town gives glimpses of possibility, while reminding you that class, gender, money and law still narrow the road. Religion is woven through urban space. Churches, chapels, processions, guild altars, saints' days and charity shape the calendar. You may join processions, light candles, confess, attend mass, and learn that piety is public as well as private. A respectable daughter is visible in the right places, at the right times, behaving in the right ways. Even holiness has a schedule. For a town daughter, life is practical, crowded, and alert. You are trained to read faces, money, fabric, streets, and rumours. Your work may not look like field labour, but it is still labour. You grow among commerce and caution, learning that every doorway opens into obligation, and every market morning begins with the same old question: what must be done before anyone lets you rest? Education for a medieval daughter depends almost entirely on where she is born, who her parents are, what they can afford, what they expect from her, and whether anyone thinks reading will make her more useful, more pious, or occasionally more marriageable. There is no universal school day waiting for girls, no neat row of desks, no soft pencil case, no teacher asking everyone to turn to page 12. Learning is uneven. It arrives through church, household, workshop, convent, family ambition, and necessity. For many poor daughters, formal education is minimal. You may never learn to read a full text. You may recognise prayers by sound, church responses by memory, numbers by market need, symbols by use, and stories through sermons and images. This does not mean you are foolish. It means literacy is not the main tool your life has been built around. Your intelligence is practical. You know how much grain remains, how weather threatens work, how to soothe a child, how to judge cloth, how to stretch food, how to remember debts, and how to avoid giving offence. A modern person may call you illiterate, then immediately fail to milk the cow, bake the bread, mend the sleeve, carry the water, and survive February. So you know, everyone has strengths. In wealthier homes, daughters may learn to read devotional material. The ability to read prayers, psalms, saints' lives, or a book of hours can be seen as spiritually valuable. A girl may learn Latin prayers by memory even if she does not understand every word. She may read in the vernacular if books are available. Reading can become part of piety, refinement, and status. Writing is another matter. Some girls read without writing fluently, because writing requires training, materials, and practice that may be considered less necessary. Convents can be important centres of female learning. Not every girl who enters a convent is there by pure personal calling. Families may place daughters there for spiritual, economic, or social reasons. But within convent life, some women gain access to books, music, administration, correspondence, and intellectual community. Nuns may copy texts, teach girls, manage estates, keep accounts, and preserve learning. For some daughters, religious life offers a rare path where literacy and authority can grow, though obedience remains central. Medieval freedom often arrives wearing a veil and carrying a rulebook, which is very on brand for the period. Noble and elite daughters may receive training at home or in another noble household. Being sent away to learn manners and service among higher-ranking people can be part of preparation for adult life. You may learn how to behave at table, how to speak to guests, how to sew fine work, how to sing, how to understand lineage, how to manage servants, and how to carry yourself among people who notice everything. This is education as performance. It teaches not only knowledge, but presence. Town daughters may learn through business. If your family trades, you may develop enough literacy or numeracy to assist with accounts, labels, orders, or correspondence. You may not be formally recognised as a professional in the same way a son might be, but your competence can be essential. Many urban households depend on wives and daughters to keep trade moving. A daughter who can count accurately, remember customers, measure cloth, or track payments is valuable, even if official records later pretend men did all the interesting work. History can be a bit rude like that. Needlework is a major form of education across status lines, though the type differs. Poor girls mend and make practical items. Wealthier girls may learn embroidery, decorative stitching, and fine textile work. These skills can be domestic, economic, devotional, and artistic. Textiles fill medieval life, clothing, bedding, altar cloths, hangings, bags, wrappings, and gifts. A daughter trained in thread is trained in value. Moral education is constant. Girls learn ideals of modesty, obedience, chastity before marriage, loyalty after marriage, patience, humility, and devotion. These lessons come from parents, priests, sermons, saints' stories, older women, songs, and warnings. Some of it is sincere spiritual guidance. Some of it is social control with a halo. You are taught not simply what to do, but how to be judged. Your education also includes silence. You learn what not to ask in public, what not to repeat, when men are speaking, when elders are tired, when a joke is unsafe, when anger must be swallowed because you lack the power to spend it. You learn to listen carefully, because information matters. You hear who is ill, who is marrying, who owes rent, who is angry, who has lost favour, who is dangerous when drunk. Much of a daughter's knowledge is unofficial, but unofficial knowledge can keep a household safe. So when you imagine medieval education, do not picture only books or the absence of books. Picture hands learning before letters. Picture memory sharpened by need. Picture prayers repeated in candlelight, wool twisted by fingers, accounts counted under breath, warnings passed from mother to daughter, and a girl becoming wise in ways no school register bothers to record. Religion is not a separate part of your life, it is the air inside it. As a medieval daughter, you grow up under church bells, feast days, fast days, saints' names, confession, blessings, processions, holy images, and the constant nearness of death. Your village or town may be poor, muddy, crowded and short on comfort, but the church gives it a calendar, a set of stories, and a language for fear. You learn who you are not only through family, but through sin, duty, prayer, and the hope that heaven is kinder than the kitchen on washing day. From infancy, the church marks your life. Baptism brings you into the Christian community. Godparents may form social ties that matter later. Saints become protectors, examples, and sometimes almost neighbours in imagination. You may be named for Mary, Margaret, Catherine, Agnes Anne, or another holy figure whose story is held before you like a candle and also like a measuring stick. Virgin saints teach purity and courage. Holy mothers teach patience and care. Penitent women teach repentance. The Virgin Mary stands above all as mother, intercessor, mercy, and unreachable model of perfect womanhood. No pressure, obviously. You attend Mass, though how much you understand depends on language, teaching, and attention. Latin prayers may wash over you as sound, rhythm, and mystery. You know when to kneel, stand, cross yourself, bow, and answer. You see candles, painted images, carved figures, cloth, incense, vessels, and the gestures of the priest. Even if doctrine is complex, the sensory world is clear. The church smells different from the house. It is stone, wax, damp, incense, bodies, and old wood. It is a place where ordinary people bring fear in exchange for order. Confession teaches self-watchfulness. You are expected to examine thoughts and actions, disobedience, anger, envy, laziness, pride, impurity, gossip, theft, failure to fast, failure to honour parents. For a daughter, moral teaching often emphasises modesty and obedience. Your body is watched not only by family and neighbours, but by spiritual instruction. Hair, speech, laughter, movement and desire can become matters of conscience. The line between holiness and reputation is thin, and women are often asked to carry both at once. Fasting and feasting shape your body. The church calendar limits meat at certain times, marks Lent, celebrates saints' days, and creates rhythms of denial and relief. In wealthier households, fasting may mean different food rather than real hunger. In poor households, fasting can look suspiciously similar to the regular menu, just with more theology. Still, feast days bring colour, rest, processions, songs, ale, bread, games, and a break from ordinary labour. You learn time through these cycles. Ordinary weeks are heavy, holy days lift them for a moment. Prayer is practical. You pray for health, harvest, safe childbirth, protection from fire, mercy for the dead, relief from pain, success in marriage, and the return of travellers. You may light a candle, touch a relic if available, visit a shrine, or ask a saint's help for illness. Medieval religion is not abstract philosophy for most daughters. It is woven into fear and hope. When medicine is limited and danger is common, prayer is not decoration. It is one of the few tools always within reach. The Church also teaches gender. Sermons and moral texts may present women as morally vulnerable, talkative, tempting, weak, or needing control, while also praising holy women as models of devotion. This contradiction becomes part of your mental furniture. You are warned against Eve and directed toward Mary. You are told to obey men, yet you may see women organising charity, maintaining household devotion, teaching children prayers, preparing bodies for burial, and sustaining parish life. Official language may place men above women, but daily religious practice depends deeply on female labour. Charity matters. A daughter may help give food to the poor, prepare offerings, care for the sick, or participate in parish events. In noble households, girls may be trained in almsgiving as part of status and piety. In poorer families, charity may be humbler, but mutual aid still exists. Religion teaches that how one treats the vulnerable matters, even in a world very skilled at creating vulnerable people. Superstition, folk belief, and official religion blend in everyday life. You may know charms, blessings, protective prayers, herbs associated with saints, fears of evil spirits, and customs around childbirth, illness, and death. Priests may approve some practices and condemn others, but ordinary people often live in the overlap. A daughter learns what her mother does when a child has fever, what words are said when butter will not come, what sign is made before a journey, what stories are told about the dead returning in dreams. The medieval world is crowded with unseen meaning. For you, religion shapes identity by giving every action a moral echo. Work can be obedience. Suffering can be patience. Marriage can be duty. Virginity can be honour. Motherhood can be sanctified labour. Grief can be prayer. This can comfort you, and it can confine you. It tells you that your small life matters to God, while also telling you to bear much of that life quietly. So you learn to kneel, to whisper, to hope, and to carry your duties under the bell's slow voice. Marriage in medieval life is often imagined with garlands, church doors, rings, and maybe one romantic glance across a candlelit hall, if the storytellers are feeling generous. But for most daughters, marriage is not mainly a private love story. It is family strategy, economic necessity, social arrangement, labour planning, property movement, and reputation management, with feelings included only if they happen to fit somewhere between the dowry and the dinner. Very sweet, in the way an account book can be sweet if you squint. As a daughter, you understand early that your future may involve leaving the house where you learnt everything. Marriage usually moves a woman into her husband's household, or into a new household shaped by his family, work, and status. This means your training has always had a hidden destination. The bread, spinning, childcare, obedience, thrift, and manners are not only for your parents, they are preparation for becoming useful somewhere else. Every chore is practice for a life you may not choose. Families consider matches carefully because marriage links households. Among peasants, the question may involve land, labour, rent, livestock, tools, local reputation, and whether the couple can support themselves. A daughter who marries nearby may remain within a familiar network, which can be comforting. A daughter sent farther away may lose daily contact with the women who taught her. Among townspeople, marriage can link trades, shops, workshops, and business interests. Among nobles, it can move land, settle disputes, create alliances, and shift political futures. The scale changes, but the principle remains. Your marriage matters to more people than you. Consent exists in church law, and medieval marriage is legally complex. In theory, a valid marriage requires the consent of the couple. In practice, family pressure can be powerful, especially when money, inheritance, and obedience are involved. A daughter may agree because she is willing, because she is persuaded, because she sees no better option, or because refusing would bring conflict she cannot afford. The gap between legal consent and free choice can be wide enough to stable a horse in it. Age varies by place, class, and circumstance. Some girls are betrothed young, especially among the elite, though cohabitation and consummation may occur later. Many peasant women marry in their later teens or 20s, often when economic conditions allow a new household to form. Town daughters may marry after service or apprenticeship-like work. There is no single medieval pattern, but the pressure is steady. A daughter is expected to become a wife unless she enters another recognised path, such as religious life or service. Dowry, gifts, and property arrangements weigh heavily. A poor family may struggle to provide goods that make a daughter marriageable. Clothing, bedding, a chest, tools, animals, money, or rights to land can affect the match. A better portion can improve prospects, a poor one can limit them. This is painful because it turns parental love into material calculation. Your parents may want security for you, but they must measure what they can spare without harming everyone else. A daughter can become the place where affection and arithmetic meet awkwardly at the table. Marriage also changes your authority. As a daughter, you are under parental control. As a wife, you come under a husband's authority, though your actual influence depends on personality, wealth, work, law, and circumstance. You may manage household tasks, supervise servants, produce goods, sell at market, bear children, and keep accounts. You may become essential to the family's survival, yet formal power often remains limited. You are central and subordinate at the same time, which is a very medieval arrangement, indispensable. But please do not get ideas. Love is not absent. People in the Middle Ages desire, cherish, grieve, flirt, write songs, make foolish choices, and form deep attachments. Some marriages become affectionate partnerships. Couples work side by side, raise children, endure loss, share jokes, and grow old together when luck is unusually generous. But love is not the only foundation expected to hold the structure. Marriage is also labour. It is food, fertility, property, work, sex, reputation, kinship, and survival. For daughters, the emotional weight of marriage includes leaving. You leave familiar walls, sisters, mother, neighbours, paths, routines, and perhaps the one person who understood your silences. You enter a new household where people judge your skills, fertility, obedience, and manners. Your mother may prepare you with advice that sounds practical, because if she makes it too tender, both of you may break. Watch the stores. Do not anger his mother. Keep your linen safe. Rise early. Speak carefully. Pray when afraid. Marriage becomes family business because medieval life is built on households, not individuals drifting freely through personal preference. A daughter is not sent into marriage only as herself. She carries name, honour, goods, training, hopes, and sometimes debts. She may gain security, partnership, and children. She may also gain danger, homesickness, and labour without end. The wedding day may be bright with witnesses and bells, but beyond it waits the ordinary truth, another house, another hearth, and the same old work beginning again under a different roof. Dowry and inheritance are the quiet machinery behind many medieval daughters' lives. They do not always appear dramatic on the surface. There may be no shouting, no villain in a dark cloak, no thunderstorm arriving exactly when the legal discussion begins. Instead, there are chests, cloth, coins, tools, animals, promises, land rights, family memory, and the slow pressure of what can be given without ruining what remains. A daughter's future may turn on objects folded carefully in a box. A dowry or marriage portion can include money, clothing, bedding, household goods, livestock, land rights, utensils, or trade materials. The exact form depends on region, class, law, and family wealth. For a peasant daughter, a few animals, tools, pots, linens, or access to land may matter enormously. For a town daughter, goods connected to trade or household setup can help her enter married life with practical support. For a noble daughter, dowry negotiations can become major political and financial events, involving estates, rents, alliances, and documents sealed with serious faces by men who absolutely enjoy saying wearers. The dowry is not simply a gift, it is a signal. It tells the husband's family what support accompanies the bride. It may protect her status, make the match possible, or provide security if widowhood comes, but it can also strain her birth family. If there are several daughters, portions must be divided. If the family is poor, one daughter's marriage may delay another's. If property is limited, sons' inheritance may be prioritised while daughters receive movable goods. Every arrangement reveals what the society values, and often daughters learn their value through what can be spared. Inheritance law varies widely across medieval Europe. In some regions and classes, daughters inherit when there are no sons. In others, they receive portions but not equal shares. Elite daughters can become heiresses if male lines fail, making them highly desirable marriage partners and also highly controlled. A daughter with land may attract suitors, guardians, claims, and pressure. Wealth can give a woman leverage, but it can also make her a prize in other people's strategies. Medieval logic again, congratulations on your inheritance. Now everyone is interested in your personal freedom for totally unrelated reasons. For poorer daughters, inheritance may be less formal but no less important. A mother might pass down clothing, linen, tools, jewellery if there is any, recipes, household knowledge, or rights remembered by neighbours. A chest can hold a daughter's small claim to adulthood. Linen sheets, a good cloak, a belt, a knife, a pot, a spinning tool, these are not sentimental antiques. They are survival equipment. They help establish her place in a new household. They can be pawned, traded, hidden, or defended. The emotional burden is heavy because material goods carry love. A mother saving cloth for years may be preparing her daughter's future stitch by stitch. A father setting aside an animal may be doing what he can to make a marriage possible. A sister may understand that one girl's portion affects another's chance. Family generosity is limited by scarcity, and scarcity makes love choose forms. Nobody wants affection to be measured in blankets, but winter is not impressed by poetry. Dowry can also influence power within marriage. A woman who brings valuable goods may have stronger claims or better treatment, though nothing is guaranteed. Some legal systems protect portions or dower rights, providing a widow with support from her husband's property. Widowhood is a major concern because husbands can die from war, work, disease, accident, or the general medieval hobby of making life unstable. A daughter's security as a future widow may be discussed long before she becomes a wife. Clothing is especially important. Good garments show respectability and can be reused, altered, pledged, or inherited. A daughter's wedding clothing may represent family pride. Bedding matters because it helps establish a household. Tools matter because they allow production. Coins matter because flexibility can save a person in crisis. Land matters because it produces food and rent. Each type of property has a different kind of safety hidden inside it. Yet property can be contested. Brothers, husbands, in-laws, guardians, creditors, and local authorities may all have opinions about what belongs to whom. The daughter must often rely on documents, witnesses, custom, and male relatives to defend claims. If she is widowed or orphaned, her vulnerability can increase. The law may recognise rights, but rights require enforcement, and enforcement requires power, money, allies, or stubbornness of heroic proportions. So when you imagine a medieval daughter preparing for marriage or adulthood, picture the chest. Picture folded linen smelling faintly of storage herbs. Picture a belt, a pair of sleeves, a small purse, a wooden bowl, a distaff, maybe a few coins wrapped carefully. Picture her mother checking the contents with practical hands. Inside that chest lies not luxury, but hope made touchable. It says, "Take this, because the world is hard. Take this, because we cannot go with you. Take this, because a daughter must carry her future in whatever the family can afford to give." A medieval daughter's reputation follows her like a second shadow, and unlike a real shadow, it does not politely disappear at night. It moves through the village, town, market, churchyard, workshop, manor hall and family table. People speak of it directly, indirectly, kindly, cruelly, accurately, and with the creative confidence of neighbours who have not checked a single fact. Reputation matters because it shapes marriage prospects, trust, employment, family honour, and social protection. A daughter does not simply behave for herself. She behaves under the weight of everyone's interpretation. Modesty is one of the central expectations. It can involve clothing, hair covering, speech, movement, laughter, and sexual behaviour. Standards vary by class and region, but the principle is broad. A respectable daughter should appear controlled. Loose hair may be associated with youth, intimacy, or disorder depending on context. Clothing should match status and moral expectations. Too much display can invite criticism. Too little care can suggest poverty or neglect. Your body becomes a message board everyone else believes they are allowed to read. Delightful system, truly no notes, except all the notes. Speech is watched. A daughter who talks too much may be called bold, foolish, flirtatious, or disrespectful. A daughter who is too silent may be considered dull or proud. The safe middle is narrow, and naturally it moves depending on who is judging you. You learn to answer clearly without seeming sharp, to laugh softly, to avoid public quarrels, to keep family matters private, and to understand that words can be remembered longer than you intended. In a world where many agreements depend on trust and witnesses, reputation for honesty matters deeply. Friendships are watched too. Who you spend time with affects how people read you. Other girls can provide companionship, humour, warnings and support, but groups of young women may also be judged if they seem too visible or independent. Talking with young men is especially risky, even when innocent. Courtship may exist, but it is bounded by supervision and expectation. A daughter seen alone with someone may become the subject of stories that grow legs, wings, and possibly horns before evening. Reputation is tied to sexuality because family honour is often imagined through female chastity. This is one of the harshest burdens daughters carry. A son's behaviour may be criticised, but a daughter's sexual reputation can affect dowry negotiations, marriage prospects, and family standing. Pregnancy outside marriage can bring serious consequences: shame, legal trouble, economic vulnerability, and spiritual anxiety. Even accusations can harm. The fear is not only of wrongdoing, it is of being believed guilty by people who prefer a dramatic story to a careful truth. Class shapes reputation differently. A noble daughter is watched because her marriage may affect lineage and property. Her conduct reflects on powerful kin. A town daughter is watched in streets, shops and parish networks where public visibility is high. A peasant daughter is watched by neighbours who know her routines and may connect her behaviour to family reliability. A servant girl is especially vulnerable because she lives under another household's authority and may have less protection from rumour, harassment or blame. Work can improve reputation. A hard-working daughter is praised as useful, obedient and marriageable. Skill at spinning, brewing, dairy, sewing, childcare or household management becomes moral evidence. Laziness is not merely personal, it suggests future household trouble. People may say she rises early, keeps things neat, speaks gently, helps her mother. Or they may say she is idle, vain, quarrelsome, careless. These descriptions can shape her future as effectively as coins. Gossip is a social weapon and a social glue. It warns, entertains, punishes and bonds communities. Some gossip protects people from danger by spreading knowledge of theft, violence, dishonesty or sickness. Some gossip is simply cruelty wearing a bonnet. As a daughter, you learn to listen without always joining, because speaking can expose you. You also learn that denial does not always stop a story. Sometimes the safest strategy is consistency. Keep working, keep appearing in respectable places, keep behaving so predictably that the gossip starves. The church reinforces reputation through moral teaching. Confession offers spiritual repair, but public shame may remain. Penitential practices, sermons and parish discipline can mark behaviour. Community and salvation are linked in people's minds. A daughter's honour is not only social, it has eternal language around it. Yet reputation can also protect. A girl known as honest may be trusted in market tasks. A daughter from a reliable family may receive better marriage offers or employment. A young woman known for piety may gain respect. Older women may defend a girl whose character they trust. In a world without modern institutions, a good name can function like a fragile shield, so you move carefully, you lower your voice in public, you cover your hair when expected. You avoid the wrong doorway, the wrong hour, the wrong laugh. You learn that being good is not enough. You must be seen as good by people who may not be generous. This is the exhausting double labour of reputation, doing your duties, and managing the story others tell about how you do them. Illness sits close to every medieval daughter. It is not an occasional visitor. It is part of the furniture, somewhere between the hearth and the bed, waiting patiently with terrible manners. You grow up around coughs, fevers, infected cuts, stomach sickness, childbirth dangers, weak infants, aching joints, bad teeth, eye infections, and the constant possibility that someone healthy in the morning may be frightening by night. Medicine exists, but it is limited, uneven, and mixed from learned theory, folk practice, prayer, herbs, experience, and hope. As a child, you learn sickness by watching adults respond. A fever may bring cool cloths, prayers, herbal drinks, charms, bleeding in some contexts, warmed broth, or a trip to someone known for remedies. The village wise woman, a mother, a barber surgeon, a physician for the wealthy, a monk, a nun, or a priest may all be part of the healing world depending on place and status. Care is practical and spiritual at once. People do not have germ theory, but they know that some illnesses spread, that foul smells worry them, that bad food harms, that wounds can turn dangerous, and that some houses feel unlucky after too many deaths. Malnutrition shapes vulnerability. Poor daughters may not starve constantly, but diet can be monotonous and seasonal. Grain, pottage, ale, beans, peas, vegetables, dairy and occasional meat may sustain life, but shortages, bad harvests, high prices or family crisis can weaken bodies. A growing girl may work hard while eating less than she needs. The body keeps score quietly. Thinness, fatigue, delayed growth and illness can follow. Medieval life is very committed to making rest sound suspiciously like a moral failing. Menstruation is another private reality surrounded by limited supplies, modesty and silence. Girls learn from mothers, sisters, servants or older women how to manage bleeding with cloth, washing, concealment and practical caution. There is no modern convenience, no reliable privacy, and often no gentle conversation. Your body changes, and the social meaning of that change arrives quickly. You are now closer to marriageability, fertility, danger, and judgment. Biology becomes biography before you have fully understood it. Pregnancy and childbirth are among the greatest risks waiting for daughters who become wives. Childbirth is managed mostly by women, midwives, mothers, neighbours, female kin. They bring experience, prayers, stools, cloths, herbs, warmed water and practised hands. Some births go well, some do not. Obstructed labour, infection, hemorrhage, exhaustion and fever can kill. Infants are also fragile. A young woman may face pregnancy repeatedly, with little control over timing. The expectation of motherhood is sacred, social and practical, but it is also dangerous. Every cradle has a shadow near it. For unmarried daughters, illness can affect marriage prospects. Visible weakness, chronic sickness, disability, scars or rumours of poor health may reduce offers, especially where marriage is an economic arrangement. This is cruel, but medieval households must consider labour and survival. A wife is expected to work, bear children, manage tasks and contribute. Health becomes part of value. Compassion exists, but so does calculation. The Black Death and later plague outbreaks intensify fear in many medieval communities. Depending on your date and place, plague may be memory, rumour, current terror, or returning threat. People see sudden swellings, fever, death, empty houses, disrupted families, labour shortages, spiritual panic, and social blame. A daughter living through plague may lose parents, siblings, neighbours, or suitors. She may inherit responsibility too early, or be sent into service because the household has broken. Plague does not simply kill individuals, it rearranges futures. Caregiving falls heavily on women and girls. As a daughter, you may fetch water, clean bedding, warm food, sit near the sick, carry messages, help with younger children, and watch for changes. This caregiving is intimate and frightening. You may love the person you tend, fear catching illness, and feel guilty for fearing it. You learn the sounds of breathing that is improving and breathing that is not. You learn that adults can become helpless. You learn that prayer can continue long after certainty has left the room. Death rituals become familiar. Bodies are washed, shrouded, watched, mourned, carried, prayed over. Women often play important roles in preparing the dead and sustaining grief practices. A daughter may see death young, not as a distant concept, but as a neighbour's door, a wrapped body, a bell, a mother crying while still needing to cook. The boundary between ordinary and eternal is close. Yet the medieval world is not ignorant despair. People observe, adapt, care, and remember remedies that sometimes help. Herbs can soothe, cleanliness in certain forms can protect, good food can strengthen, midwives can save lives, rest can heal, and community support matters. But uncertainty remains the great constant. A daughter's life unfolds with illness always nearby, teaching her tenderness, fear, patience, and the fragile arithmetic of survival. One more winter, one more birth, one more fever broken before dawn. Mothers, sisters, grandmothers, aunts, servants, neighbours, and older girls form the hidden network that teaches a medieval daughter how to survive. Official records often name fathers, husbands, lords, priests, and property holders. But much of daily life is carried by women whose names may never be written down. You learn from them in kitchens, yards, fields, wells, markets, birth rooms, sick rooms, church aisles, and during the small pauses when hands keep working and voices lower into truth. Your mother is your first model, whether tender, strict, exhausted, funny, sharp, gentle, or all of these before breakfast. You watch how she measures grain, speaks to your father, corrects servants or children, bargains with neighbours, hides worry, stretches food, keeps track of debts, and decides when to spend precious energy arguing. She may not explain everything. Medieval mothers are not always running emotional workshops with soft lighting. Sometimes the lesson is simply, stand here, hold this, do it this way, and please do not drop it unless you want the entire household to remember forever. A mother teaches through repetition, because repetition is survival. She shows you how to wrap a baby, skim milk, judge dough, clean a wound, fold linen, identify useful herbs, avoid certain men, speak respectfully to elders, and keep family troubles from becoming public entertainment. She may scold you for mistakes that seem small because she knows small mistakes can become large consequences. Her strictness may carry fear on your behalf. Her tenderness may appear in the quietest forms, a better portion when you are tired, a warning before you are judged, a hand on your shoulder while no one is looking. Sisters can be companions and rivals. An older sister may teach you tasks before your mother has time. She may show you how to tie a belt, hide a stain, avoid a chore badly enough to be believable, but not so badly that you are punished, which is a delicate and ancient art. A younger sister may become your responsibility, shadow, irritation, and comfort. Sisters share sleeping space, secrets, work, grief, and sometimes resentment. If dowries are limited, one sister's future may affect another's. Love does not remove competition, it just makes it more complicated. Grandmothers and older women carry memory. They know who married whom, which families are unlucky, which fields flood, which births were hard, which remedies helped, which men should not be trusted, and which stories are warnings disguised as entertainment. Their knowledge can sound like superstition, but often it is observation stored in narrative form. Do not cross that bridge after dark. Do not marry into that household if you can avoid it. Keep comfrey for swelling. Watch a quiet fever. Remember that a sweet tongue can hide a hard hand. These lessons are practical, even when wrapped in old sayings. Neighbours matter, because medieval households are rarely isolated in daily function. Women borrow tools, share news, help at births, mourn together, exchange labour, and judge one another with equal enthusiasm. A neighbour can save you in crisis, or ruin your reputation by lunchtime. You learn which women are generous, which are dangerous, which exaggerate, which know remedies, which have influence, and which can be trusted with a secret. Community is not always kind, but it is powerful. Female bonds are especially important during major transitions. When menstruation begins, older girls or women explain what must be done. Before marriage, women may offer advice blunt enough to make a modern listener drop their herbal tea. During pregnancy, birth and recovery, women gather around the body in ways men usually do not. In grief, they help prepare the dead, comfort the living, and carry memory forward. These bonds form a kind of quiet institution, unofficial but essential. Servants and working women also teach. In wealthier households, a daughter may learn from nurses, maids, laundresses, cooks, and female attendants. These women may have less status but enormous practical knowledge. A noble girl who ignores them loses access to reality. A clever one watches. She learns that the household runs because labouring women know where everything is, who is lying, what is missing, and how to fix problems before the family notices. These relationships are not always gentle. Women can enforce the same rules that confine them. Mothers may push daughters into obedience. Older women may shame younger ones. Neighbours may gossip. Aunts may judge. Female community can protect, but it can also police. Survival knowledge often comes mixed with fear. Be careful, be quiet, be useful, do not bring shame. The women who love you may still teach you to fit into a hard world rather than challenge it, because fitting in may be the safest gift they know how to give. Still, within this network, a daughter finds warmth, shared laughter while washing, whispered complaints during spinning, a sister's foot nudging yours under a bench, your mother saving a scrap of cloth, a neighbour arriving when labour pains begin, a grandmother telling stories as the fire sinks low. These moments rarely enter chronicles, but they build the emotional architecture of life. A medieval daughter is shaped not only by fathers, husbands, laws and priests, but by the women who teach her how to endure, how to notice, and how to keep going when the day has already asked too much. Work never really stops for a medieval daughter. It changes shape, location and name, but it does not disappear. As a child, you help. As an older girl, you contribute. As a servant, you obey. As a wife, you manage and labour. As a mother, you work while caring for others. As a widow, you may work harder to protect what remains. Rest exists, but it is fragile, often tied to holy days, illness, weather, or the brief mercy of a task completed before the next one arrives. In the household, work is circular. Food must be prepared, eaten, cleaned away, and prepared again. Fire must be tended, ash cleared, fuel gathered, smoke endured. Clothing must be washed, dried, patched, and washed again. Children must be fed, watched, corrected, comforted, and stopped from doing whatever alarming thing they're about to do with that stick. Animals must be fed, milked, cleaned, guarded, or managed. Floors gather dirt. Pots blacken. Bedding dampens. Water empties. The house is not a thing that becomes finished. It is a living appetite. Women's work is often undervalued because it is constant. Tasks that happen every day can become invisible to those who benefit from them. A loaf appears. A shirt is mended. A child is quiet. A pot is clean. A sick person is watched. A fire is still alive in the morning. Each result looks ordinary unless you know the labour behind it. Medieval daughters learn early that necessary work is not always praised. Sometimes the reward for doing it well is that everyone assumes it was easy. A tradition still thriving in many kitchens, tragically. If you enter service, your labour belongs to another household. Many girls and young women work as domestic servants before marriage, or because family poverty requires wages. Service can teach skills, widen networks, and provide food and lodging. It can also be exhausting, lonely, and risky. You may rise before the family, sleep after them, scrub, carry, cook, wash, mind children, tend fires, and accept correction from people who measure your value by obedience. A good placement can help your future. A bad one can harm your body, reputation, or spirit. In rural life, women's work crosses into fields and barns. Daughters weed, glean, harvest, tend animals, dairy, brew, garden, gather fuel, and process food. Dairy work alone can be demanding: milking, straining, churning, cheese making, cleaning vessels, and keeping everything from spoiling. Grain must be ground or taken to mills, vegetables stored, herbs dried, fruit preserved, and animals watched. The line between domestic and agricultural labour is thin, because the household economy depends on both. In towns, daughters contribute to production and trade. They may spin, sew, brew, bake, sell, finish goods, keep shop, carry messages, sort materials, and assist in family businesses. The craftsman's daughter may know the trade intimately, even if official guild structures exclude her. A merchant's daughter may understand accounts and customer habits. A brewer's daughter may understand fermentation better than a scholar understands humility, which, to be fair, was a high medieval challenge. Marriage does not end labour, it usually increases responsibility. A wife must help sustain the new household. She may bear children, produce goods, manage servants or apprentices, assist in trade, handle food storage, care for livestock, and maintain relationships with neighbours and kin. Her work may determine whether the household survives a bad season. If her husband travels, falls ill, or dies, she may take on more visible authority. Widows often occupy a complicated position, vulnerable but sometimes more legally and economically active than married women. A widow may continue a trade, manage property, arrange children's futures, or fight to keep what others want to take. The body pays for work. Hands roughen, backs ache, knees stiffen, eyes strain in low light, lungs take in smoke, skin cracks in cold water, and fatigue becomes familiar. Medieval daughters do not discuss self-care routines, because the routine is mostly keep going and try not to collapse near the pig. Yet people do seek relief where they can. A feast day, a shared joke, a song while working, a neighbour's help, a prayer, a warm place by the fire, a rare afternoon when weather stops field labour. Work also gives identity. A skilled spinner, good brewer, careful dairy worker, reliable servant, strong harvester, or competent household manager earns respect. Usefulness can become pride. A daughter may feel satisfaction in a well-baked loaf, a clean cloth, a sleeping child, a fair bargain, a task completed before rain. Labour is burdensome, but it is also the language through which many women prove competence in a world that limits other forms of recognition. So the story of a medieval daughter cannot be separated from work. She is not waiting passively for history to happen around her. She is carrying, stitching, stirring, lifting, remembering, feeding, saving, and managing the small systems that keep life from falling apart. The tragedy is that this work is endless. The dignity is that it matters. The softness, if there is any, comes in the rhythm of hands moving through tasks learned from women before her, as the evening lowers and still, somehow, one more thing must be done. Not every medieval daughter follows the same road into marriage, though marriage is the path most people expect. There are side paths, narrow and uneven, sometimes chosen, sometimes forced, sometimes opening by luck, loss, poverty, piety, or unusual family circumstances. A daughter may enter a convent, work in service, remain unmarried in a family household, assist a trade, become a healer, manage property as a widow, or live in arrangements that do not fit the neat stories people prefer. These alternatives exist, but they are rarely simple freedom. They are more like doors that open into smaller rooms. The convent is one of the most recognised alternatives. For some girls, religious life offers genuine spiritual purpose, education, community, music, books, and a form of female authority unavailable elsewhere. A nun may pray, read, sing offices, manage estates, teach girls, copy manuscripts, supervise workers, and participate in a community of women. For noble or wealthy daughters, convents can be respected placements, especially if marriage portions are difficult or a family seeks spiritual prestige. For poorer girls, entry may depend on local opportunities and resources, but convent life also requires obedience, discipline, enclosure in some cases, and acceptance of a rule. It is not modern independence, it is structured devotion with better access to books than most kitchens, which honestly is not nothing. Domestic service is another major route. A daughter may leave home to work in another household during adolescence or young adulthood. Service can delay marriage, build savings, teach skills, and expand social connections. Many young women in towns and countryside spend years in service before marrying. It can be practical and even empowering in limited ways, giving a girl experience outside her birth family. but she is still under authority. Her wages, safety, workload, and reputation depend heavily on the household she serves. Service offers movement, not guaranteed protection. Trade work can also create alternatives. In towns, daughters of artisans and merchants may become deeply involved in family business. Some women brew, bake, spin, sew, sell, keep shops, work in textiles, prepare food, or assist skilled trades. A daughter may not always receive formal recognition, but she can become economically important. If she marries within the trade, her knowledge strengthens the new household. If she remains unmarried for a time, she may still contribute to the family economy. If widowed, she may continue a business under certain laws or customs. Widowhood, strangely enough, can open authority because a woman no longer stands under a husband's daily legal control. Medieval society, sometimes the upgrade requires tragedy, which is not an ideal career ladder. Healing and midwifery form another path of expertise. Women who know herbs, childbirth, infant care, wound treatment, and household remedies can become valued in their communities. Not all are formally trained, and their status varies, but practical knowledge gives influence. A daughter may learn from her mother or older women, gradually becoming someone people call when a child burns with fever or a labour lasts too long. This work brings respect and risk. A healer can be praised when recovery comes and blamed when it does not. Remaining unmarried is possible, though often difficult. An unmarried daughter may stay in her parents' home, care for aging relatives, help raise siblings' children, work as a servant, or join another household. Her status may be less secure, especially if parents die or property passes elsewhere. Some women choose or accept single life through circumstance, but society may view unmarried adult women with suspicion, pity, or practical interest depending on their resources and conduct. Without marriage, a woman needs support, income, family protection, or a community structure. Some daughters become household leaders through necessity. If a father dies and brothers are young, if a mother is ill, if war, plague, or economic crisis disrupts family structure, a girl or young woman may take on adult responsibilities early. She may negotiate with neighbours, manage food, care for children, or help preserve property. Records may not celebrate her, but survival may depend on her. History often misses the person who kept the key, counted the grain, and stopped the youngest child from wandering into the lane. There are also darker alternatives: poverty, displacement, begging, exploitation, or forced dependency. Not every daughter has a family able to arrange a marriage or placement. Orphans, servants without protection, girls from ruined households, and those harmed by war or plague may face precarious lives. Medieval charity exists, but it is uneven. A daughter outside stable household structures is vulnerable because society is built around belonging somewhere under someone's authority. The rare paths outside marriage show that medieval daughters are not all the same. Status, region, wealth, personality, law, birth order, health and chance all matter. Some find meaningful religious lives. Some become skilled workers. Some support families without marrying. Some gain authority as widows. Some are trapped by poverty. The expected road is strong, but not the only road. For you, imagining these alternatives means imagining narrow choices made under pressure. A convent bell instead of a wedding bell. A servant's bundle instead of a dowry chest. A market stall instead of a husband's field. A healer's pouch instead of a cradle. Each path carries cost and possibility. None is simple, but each reminds us that medieval daughters, even within limits, move through life with intelligence, adaptation, and the quiet human desire to find a place where they could endure. Eventually, if you survive childhood, illness, labour, reputation, and the negotiations of family life, you may become the next mother, or the next aunt, mistress, widow, servant, nun, neighbour, or older woman, whose hands know what younger hands still struggle to learn. The daughter does not vanish. She changes position in the household map. The girl who once carried water behind her mother may now send another child to the well. The child who once tangled wool may now correct the twist of thread in someone else's fingers. The one who listened to warnings becomes the one giving them. This is how medieval life repeats itself, not perfectly, not gently, but persistently. Skills pass through bodies and voices. A mother shows a daughter how to knead dough. Not because dough is romantic, but because bread must happen again tomorrow. A grandmother teaches a charm or prayer, not because she can prove it works, but because fear needs words. An older sister shows a younger one how to hide tears before guests arrive. A widow teaches a niece where documents are kept. A servant teaches a new girl which mistresses fare, which key sticks, which floorboard creaks, and which leftover crust can be eaten without anyone making a sermon out of it. If you become a mother, your love is shaped by the same hard world that shaped your own mother's love. You may want softness for your daughter. You may also demand obedience, thrift, modesty, and work, because softness alone will not protect her. This is one of the saddest continuities in history. People often pass on the rules that wounded them, because those rules also help them survive. You may scold her for laughing too loudly because you remember gossip. You may push her to spin, because skill matters. You may warn her about men, because danger is real. You may teach her to lower her eyes, not because you want her spirit small, but because you know the world punishes girls who seem too unguarded. And still tenderness finds a way through. You warm her hands at the hearth. You save a better scrap of cloth for her sleeve. You braid her hair before church. You notice when she is tired. You pretend not to see when she steals a moment of play, because you remember being that small, that restless, that alive. The world asks daughters to become useful quickly, but beneath usefulness there is still personhood, flickering like a small lamp protected by cupped hands. As the years pass, your own childhood may blur into scents and sounds: wet wool, sour ale, bread crust, church wax, sheep dung, spring mud, smoke caught in the rafters, your mother's voice calling before dawn. You may remember the heaviness of the first water bucket, the embarrassment of a public correction, the comfort of your sister's whisper in the dark, the fear of fever in the house, the strange silence before leaving for marriage or service. Memory does not arrange itself like a chronicle. It returns in fragments, practical and emotional at once. The medieval daughter becomes part of family memory too. Perhaps your name appears nowhere in a grand record. Perhaps no one writes your thoughts, your jokes, your patience, your anger, your private hopes. Perhaps history remembers the lord who owned the land, the priest who recorded the tithe, the merchant who signed the contract, and the son who inherited the holding. But the household remembers differently. It remembers who kept the fire, who nursed the baby, who stretched the meal, who knew the herb, who mended the cloak before winter, who stayed awake during fever, who packed the daughter's chest, who stood in the doorway watching a girl leave and did not call her back because survival required letting go. As evening settles over this imagined medieval house, the work slows but does not entirely end. A pot is covered, embers are tucked under ash, a child sighs in sleep, someone coughs, then quiets. Outside, the lane darkens, and the church bell marks time in a voice older than anyone listening. You sit near the hearth, older now, hands rough, shoulders tired, watching the small movements of another daughter learning the room. She does not know yet how much the world will ask of her. You do. And because you know, you teach her. You teach her how to fold linen so it lasts. You teach her how to listen when neighbours speak. You teach her which prayers are said for fear, which songs make work lighter, which foods can be stretched, which silences are safe, and which are dangerous. You teach her that duty can feel heavy, but skill can become a kind of shelter. You teach her, perhaps without saying it plainly, that love in this world often arrives as preparation. Now the room grows softer, the smoke thins into the rafters, the rushes on the floor settle. The animals beyond the wall shift once and then grow still. The daughter beside you leans into sleep, and for a moment there is no marriage negotiation, no gossip, no dowry worry, no fever at the door, no field waiting beyond dawn. There is only warmth, breathing, and the fragile peace of a household that has survived one more day. And maybe that is the quietest truth of being a daughter in medieval times. It meant being born into duty, trained by work, watched by others, shaped by faith, measured by reputation, and carried forward by women whose labour rarely received the honour it deserved. But it also meant belonging to a chain of hands, mother to daughter, sister to sister, neighbour to child, each passing on what she knew so the next one might endure. The night deepens, the old house creaks, the fire lowers to red, and somewhere in that small circle of warmth, a daughter sleeps, not free from the world, not yet, but held for a little while inside the work and love of those who came before her.